Welcome to the Young Crones Cafe, where you can get a magic brew full of all sorts of information, both witchy and practical.
Grab a cup of coffee and join us. I'm Elizabeth, a wordsmith.
And I'm Dave, a modern-day sage.
We are going to talk about various witchcraft and life topics from a slightly more mature perspective, at least most of the time.
Thanks for joining us.
Today's metaphysical kernel of thought is no missionaries or hell either. Within the path, we don't go looking for converts. This is similar to the rest of the general pagan witchcraft community because we don't believe it is necessary to send missionaries out looking for people to join us. This is a path you need to find on your own through however you get there. We have come to think of this as one's first seeking. The path doesn't offer eternal salvation through the grace, mercy of some god or goddess. And the flip side of this is that we have no belief in eternal damnation or some form of hell either. The truth is that no one has a definitive answer about what happens after death. We have had experiences where we have received signs and messages from the ancestors, and that they are still with us in different ways. But they are personal to us, so this is not evidence for anyone else. It is up to each of us as individuals to figure out our own spiritual path towards personal growth and development. We do not choose to focus our way on some sort of goal of getting to a wonderful afterlife where all our difficulties or problems have been resolved and everything is beautiful. We choose instead to focus on living as much as we can with awareness of present moments. The present may be difficult, but these struggles often lead to a surge in growth and changes in perspective. The present is also full of joy and gifts from the universe as well, if we choose to pay attention to them. It is all about finding that balance within and living in the now.
No missionaries or hell either. I love the subtopic title.
Hey, we do the best we can around here, Grabs your attention there for a hot minute, though, doesn't it?
Sure.
I mean, think about it. We're not sending missionaries out looking for y'all to come.
Right, and as you mentioned there, yeah, that's not something that's common with most of the pagan traditions. I don't know. I guess there's maybe a little bit of proselytizing, but that's done from within a community that has already sort of joined in that vocation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're not knocking on your door like certain religions handing you tracts saying, this is the way to heaven.
Yeah, and I believe that everybody has the right to believe what they want as far as the good that they're doing in the universe, but I like to believe that I do better than handing out flowers at the airport.
Yeah, exactly, like the Hare Krishnas. But that's the whole idea. We're not actively seeking large numbers of people. I think witchcraft and paganism is quietly growing as a major world religion, or a resurgence of what we had initially for some people, if they want to look at it in those terms. But we're not actively sending people out to seek out. Right. It's up to you to come find us. And I tend to believe that if you're meant to find this religion, you are. If you want to think of it in terms of religion, and some people don't.
Sure.
Or beliefs or practices, or however you want to put it.
So you make it clear in that passage that we're not about gaining salvation through the grace or mercy of some god or goddess. What does the path author? What's the point that would cause someone to consider, okay, I want to try living this way?
Okay, for me, it is the personal spiritual growth and development that I find. The fact that I get to question my beliefs constantly, and that they evolve and grow as I change and grow and learn and practice and do the things that I do regularly or irregularly, as the case may be. But the whole point is, so many major religions, there is a book, or there has been teachings, and they don't change. And if they were evolved 2,000 years ago, or in the case of Islam, like circa 600, 700 Common Era, and the beliefs and practices don't change and don't match with what humanity as a species has learned about how the world works and how people relate to each other and what a quote unquote marriage might be, for example.
Well,
And
yeah, I mean, the analog there is the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay, so the idea is, yes, the beliefs started out a certain way, but now they're stuck there. And how do I, as a modern person, relate to them?
So the analog that I was talking about is the example of like the Constitution. While a wonderful document, it was written in a world that didn't address automatic combat weapons and the internet and those kind of issues. There was no context for that to be put in the framework. And so that it needed to be a living and updating.
And that's why
to be relevant in the world of today, you're applying that to a spiritual model.
Yes, exactly. That's why the Constitution has been amended. I mean, if you want to get technical, it was written by white men. Guess what? The majority of the world is not white men. The majority of this country is not white men.
Sorry, did not mean to push that button.
No, that's not. But yeah, the idea is, but religious beliefs like that, or standards, or their morals, or what they think is acceptable behavior has not amended. It's like,
right.
Follow it.
Yeah, the Bible as of 2024 reads an awful lot different.
Yeah, exactly. Or what it should read a whole lot.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, when you have Paul, who was a misogynist, the highest order, writing about wives be subservient to your husbands as the way to salvation, for example. So we don't do that on the path. We say, okay, you have to really consider what your morals and ethics are going to be. And you have to be
on a regular basis, sure.
On a regular basis. And okay, your beliefs worked last Tuesday, but you did some spiritual something over the weekend that has kind of blown some of that out of the water for you. So what is it now? And it kind of evolves.
I recently had some minor surgery, and I came out of it blessed to be healthier than I was before. That being said, I'm not the same Dave that I was before that surgery, and yeah, I can see some patterns and some things that I feel differently about now after having gone through that experience.
Yeah, see, this is it. That's a perfect way to put it. Our spiritual and life experiences should be able to continue and to shape us as we walk the path. And the path gives us permission to do that and to question everything.
Absolutely.
In both a positive and negative way, because we've all had some negative questions come up for ourselves. But at the same token, nobody on the path who walks next to you is going to judge you for questioning.
Sure.
Because they have their own questions.
Right. In fact, we tend to point out more amongst each other as a sort of a close-knit community. We tend to spend more energy on each other being supportive and positive.
Yeah.
Our negativity is something that we work on finding natural, homeopathic, reasonable places to ground those energies. I beat on drums twice a week and go pedal my butt off on a bike, and we find ways to release that energy.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes the world slams us in ways that push us into that negative space, and there are times when it's okay to be grouchy and negative. And we recognize, though, we don't have to be stuck in it forever.
Sure.
Don't wallow. How's that? I can
always be upset that I was just angry, as long as I recognize that if I'm saying that, then I'm no longer angry.
Yeah, exactly. We don't get stuck in there. We don't get stuck in either positive or
Don't get stuck in your angry.
yeah, well, don't get stuck in those highly negative emotions or those overwhelmingly positive emotions too. I don't want to be half astral. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I worked more. My middle ground nowadays tends to be content, which is kind of an even keel kind of thing. So
I think content is something that probably resonates a lot with. I'm gonna catch hell for this one. With the grandmother crowd.
yeah, probably. The older I get, I don't need exuberance. Thank you.
Right. No, I get it. I mean, I want a lawnmower that works and a good ball movement every day.
You see what I'm saying? You know, as we get older, we recognize that we don't need extremes like we used to.
Well, but that's the other thing, though, that I was gonna mention. About the last paragraph is, you say here the present may be difficult, but these struggles often lead to a surge in growth and changes in perspective. The present is also full of joy and gifts from the universe if we choose to pay attention to them. And that's been my real big thing over the last few weeks is, noticing when I don't drop my keys.
Yeah, but that's the whole point.
Yep.
You know, that's one of the gifts of the path is that, yes, the struggles cause growth too, because it allows us to expand into things we didn't think we could do when you think of it in that way.
Yep.
And by learning how to live in the present more, we can focus on those little joys or positivity pieces that just seem to make life so much better.
This morning, my day started sitting on the front porch in the sunshine with a cup of coffee, thinking about our sweet dear Susie. And it was a magical day from start to finish. And of course, I get to finish it here with you. So, yay.
But you see where I'm going with that. And that's what the path is.
Absolutely.
You get to pick and choose what you want it to be. You know, and there are times where if you're learning how to do something new or practice a new way, it's going to be a struggle and it may feel uncomfortable for a while. It's like, okay, a perfect example, learning how to play a new song on a guitar. And it's got some notes or riffs or chord combinations that you struggle to get.
Sure.
Because your fingers aren't used to like doing whatever it is you need to do right that minute. But if you practice it, all of a sudden one day it flows.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there grinning and having a high old time on the guitar. So
endorphins just waving away. Yep.
So it's the same idea about anything. There's a learning curve. And if you're trying new ways of practicing, it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to be a struggle. And then all of a sudden you get it. And there's a flow involved.
So that's so funny that I have to tell you this because I've been working at this thing every morning at the bus stop where I stand in a particular spot as the sun's coming up and I'm looking at the sun next to the sign from my bus stop and thinking what a glorious day it's going to be.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And I've had some pretty amazing days. So
yeah, and it's all about mindset. And struggle does not have to be a negative thing. If it's making you grow or experience something new, that you suddenly get practice makes perfect. And I don't mean perfect, but you know what I mean, that old phrase.
Practice makes better. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, practice makes better. You gotta go through that. You know, but you also have those moments, like you said, where there's just gifts from the universe and joy. Yeah. And when we make an effort to notice them, it just makes life better.
Absolutely. And the more I notice them, the more they happen. And the more they happen, the more I notice them.
Getting that flow.
Got it.
That leading into creation from the universe. And boy, does it feel good sometimes. Other times it's scary as hell. You know, But
Sure.
the whole idea is you don't stop trying. And I think that's the gifts of what you get from the past. No, we're not saying that there's going to be some perfect afterlife. I also think
No, there is ultimately no resolution beyond the experience that you're having right now listening to this.
exactly,
Yep.
or and I don't think I okay, part of me wants to believe sometimes because there is evil in the world that there is some sort of judgment and damnation for certain serial killers, my ex-son-in-law,
Understood.
for various other people. But by the same token, the way their lives ended up, they've created their own hell on earth anyway.
Okay.
So I don't need to worry about it.
I understand.
Yeah, exactly. So
I have not really bought into any concept of hell at all.
no, me either.
I didn't buy into that even when I was a kid. I was like, no, this is a supreme being wouldn't pull this crap. They wrote this stuff in.
Yeah,
So yeah,
my whole thing was they kept saying you have to be saved, quote unquote, and hear the word and drink the Kool-Aid and come with us. And all I can think of is how many millions of people are in China. Are they going to hell because they didn't hear the word? And that's not their fault.
yeah.
So, I never bought into it either. And that was my rationale when I was about 8. So, I was not popular in Sunday school back in the day because I was
Understood. Yeah.
yeah. No, so we'll leave that one alone and move on. But you get the point. You have, I think witches have a natural questioning spirit in that respect.
I think humans do. Absolutely.
Yeah, but a lot
I
of
think humans are all witches. It's just most of them don't understand that.
I think so. But I think witches have allowed that questioning to win.
Sure.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
We're not buying anybody else's book
Right.
or word from a pulpit somewhere or through a loudspeaker or a knock on the door. Here's a tract for you. Read this. I've read a few of those. They don't make any sense to me in the grand scheme of my universe. So it's nice.
Yeah. If you want to know what I feel about the path, we'll sit down. Let's have a cup of tea. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'll explain what we do. And if you think
My version of it. Yeah, absolutely.
of it, and you take my version and spin it and make it work for you. However it does. And come back and tell me about it because I may want to try some of your spinning.
Sure.
And that's the fun part about being a witch is we get to try new stuff all the time.
Well, and we get to interact with other spiritually, magically powerful people.
I think so. So there you go. So that's the reward.
No missionaries.
Nope.
No hell.
Nope.
No eternal damnation.
Nope. No pie in the sky salvation.
No, everybody gets a pony. No, it just doesn't work that way.
No, but a whole lot of fun.
Do your absolute best today on your path.
That's all you can do. And it's a whole lot of fun interacting with that, whatever divine of the universe,
Absolutely.
even if there is the occasion cosmic 2x4 involved.
Well, some messages need to be delivered in a stern and urgent manner.
Yeah, it's like burros. Hit them over the head and you get their attention and then they'll do what you want. Mules. But yeah, no, I'm not saying I'm stubborn in any way, shape, or form. It's usually, you want me to do another writing project? I'm already doing this one and now you want to come to me with this idea,
I think you just called me a mule. All right.
I called myself a mule because I know I can be stubborn as hell about not listening to more ideas of things for me to do some days from the universe. And then I get involved in them and it's like, why didn't I do this sooner? So, eventually I'll get the point sooner and it'll be less.
No.
Okay. I tried. So, how may you find mirth and reverence in all things? Do you have anything to add to our insanity?
Be safe. be kind, and be loved.
Practices of the path. These are the hows and whats that we, as practitioners on the path, actually do in our own lives. Everything from the various tools that we work with, as well as those we don't and why, to the solar and lunar cycles, herbs we use, crystals and stones that we work with, candles, incenses, and anything else we come up with that can give an understanding of what we personally do with our magical practices. We're talking about rebooting or restarting your practice.
Well, and in a real life, it's our practices. It's like the pun is what we do. In our real lives, we have ebbs and flows in how much we can pay attention to our spirituality versus our mundane experience. And, that's just the reality of having body, mind, and spirit.
Yes, exactly. I like how you put that. There are times when we have to be uber responsible in the mundane, and we can get stuck there very easily. I think just because that's the way the world works.
Sure. And you mentioned, we were going to talk about some ways to be able to help get yourself back on track and get back into focus and whatnot. My first question was, how do I know? In other words, if I am in a position where I have come to the realization that I need to spend more time and focus on my spiritual side, my first thought is, what is it that brought me to this realization? Did something happen? Or, how did I all of a sudden have this awakening and think, okay, I need to focus more spiritually?
All right. For me, I haven't done ritual in a while. I haven't done the little daily things that I do. And I start, for want of a better word, I start feeling jangled. It's like the alarm bells start going off internally. Like, you're way out of whack.
Okay.
And I start snapping at children and want to kick puppies. Not
sure. No, absolutely. I get it. For me, it's really odd because mine is very cyclical. I tend to focus, and some of it's self-created, but I tend to focus on the quarter moons and that being the passage of my time.
Yeah.
And I know, when times like I know there's a full moon in the next few hours. When I know about that consciously week in and week out, I'm more attuned. And for me, if I find myself thinking, oh God, what phase is the moon in right now? If I don't know, for me, that's usually an indicator that I've lost that sort of natural rhythm that I've tried to provide for myself, because it doesn't necessarily fit within our 7-day work week.
No, it doesn't.
And our calendar week, what a life week.
That solar calendar that we all live by, yes.
But when I can be aware of those things and aware of the upcoming equinox or solstice or what have you, when I kind of know my place in the wheel, I'm usually in pretty good practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, because that awareness allows you to do those little daily things, or step out on your back deck there and look for the moon at night, because it's going to
talk to Grandfather Tree. Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes we don't have time. I know if we've been ill, for example, or you're just depressed for some reason for this week kind of thing, or month, or you've been isolating and not talking to people, or you've had 14 work projects due in 10 weeks kind of thing.
Sure. Stress is another thing that'll
or if you're a student, that period of a month and a half before finals where you can't breathe,
sure, because stress is pumping so much cortisol into you that it's hard to even get calm enough to have spiritual kind of feelings because you're riding huge waves of crisis chemistry is what I call it.
Yeah, or you just have way too much mundane stuff to do. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to do this, but I have to get this out of the way first. And then you're too tired and you flop into bed and you suddenly realize you haven't done anything spiritual in a while. And your while could be, your while and my while and everybody else's while is probably different.
So we have suddenly had that, as you always love to say, that cosmic 2x4 to the forehead, and we realize, oh man, I need to get myself back in touch with my witchy side.
Exactly.
What have you got for suggestions?
Okay. Well, for me, I tend to deal with standbys. I'll start by committing to something I used to do every day again and see if it jumpstart something. And it's got to be something that's not real complicated and doesn't take a lot of time. Setting my intent in the morning by stirring my coffee.
Your coffee ritual or something like that, sure.
People like that. Or going out, we talked about going out on the back deck every night for a week and seeing what the moon phase is before I go to bed. You know what I mean? Or just taking a walk sometimes, at the butt-ass crack of dawn where the weather hasn't gone nuts yet and there aren't a lot of people and dogs and everything around. And noticing, oh my God, the leaves are turning or the leaves are coming back or the heat's not 95 yet.
Sure.
Just simple things like that. And I don't mean do these all at once. I mean one. And I make sure when I have to go through these stages, because we all do, that I don't beat myself up if I don't get to it every single day again right away. I'll aim for every other day sometimes. Or
sure.
I'll set an alarm in my phone for every couple of hours or a reminder, breathe, and I'll take those 3 breaths. One for body, one for mind, one for spirit. I just allow myself to settle a little bit more. And for me, it's a gradual thing. I am not one who can immediately jump back into, say, an ice cycle type of ritual like we do every quarter as a way to jumpstart my practice again. That would be like the culmination of I'm back in sync kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. One of the things that I found that's helpful for me, and you and the folks listening know I tend to be kind of a naturist, where I try to stay connected to things, is as soon as I have a day that I am not completely wrapped up in work, a day that I can go take a bike ride for a couple hours or something like that, and I'll make time for that. It's important for me. I have a little ritual where I like to do the 4 elements in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blessed to live within a decent range of a body of water that I can't see over the other side of. So it reminds me of being at sea. Mm-hmm. And so I will, during the course of a day, go someplace where I can see the lake. And I can see great big water, and I can see great big air or sky. Mm-hmm. And then I will go down along the gorge or find some place where I can see a rock face where there's either layers of shale or earth or whatever.
Right.
And then I finish the day out at the end of the day with having a small fire. And for me, if I can wrangle that in somewhere in a day where I can go spend at least a few breaths with each of the 4 elements, it's like the ember that was always there just flares back up, and I kind of do want to get into like the Ingress, Congress, Egress, and those sort of energetic performances because I tap so much off that elemental energy that it sort of fills me with the spirit again.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, though, the way you talk about it, you're taking a whole day. or part of a whole day or a major commitment within a day to get that done.
Sure.
And I would agree that when you reach that point for a lot of people, then you want to move on to something large, but I am hoping before you get to that point, you've remembered to breathe and wrangled yourself a few little daily things that you're starting to do more consistently, like becoming re-aware of the phases of the moon. Because I think a lot of people, they don't restart or reset or come out of that slump, as so many people call it, is it gets overwhelming just starting. So that if you start with baby steps and remember that you don't have to whoosh, a spark still there.
I think that's where we're a little bit different, in that when I'm able to do that sort of rejuvenation ritual, instinctively the very next morning I will want to do the thing that I had stopped doing that. And like I say, I just sort of automatically fall right back into those rhythms. It might even be part of my service background.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. And if that works for other people, that's great. And I think we just need to offer that, for want of a better word, contrast and compare ideas.
Absolutely.
In that some people, it's so easy to say F it and not do anything.
Sure.
And you can start with that one little thing where, I looked out the window and saw what the weather was, or opened the door and saw what the weather was. For a minute, I noticed. And it gradually fans that flame.
Yeah, I did my one push-up today. And if that's the one that I can do, by goodness, I did it. Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes we need to come from that angle.
Sure.
Other times, rejuvenation like that is terrific.
Right. Yep.
No, and it's up to the individual. I think that's what we need to stress as part of this, is it's up to you to know what your pace needs to be.
Sure, there's a wide range, and we just happen to sort of each focus at kind of one end or the other, but there's no right or wrong way.
No.
It's already, the magic has already happened the moment that you realize, I've been shortchanging myself on what I can be getting out of this experience spiritually, and I need to reconnect. That's the win there.
Oh, exactly. And you're still a witch, regardless of how long ago it was you did anything. That hasn't changed. At your core, in that inner spark of divine, is your witchiness.
Yeah, I've never seen any unwitching spray.
No, I haven't either. Or, it's like, it's you. For want of a better word, as they like to say, you drunk the Kool-Aid and joined us, so now you're stuck. But you know what I mean. And
I do.
I don't mean to be facetious or rude, because just because you aren't practicing currently, or are recognizing that maybe you want to practice more, or then there's a word for should in this, or need personally to do something a little different, doesn't make you not a witch. And I think that's the other thing you need to take away from this.
Well, and I'm mirthing your reverence this time.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's funny, because I think we switch back and forth on that. I think that's why we had so much fun.
I think so. I mean, sometimes one of us has to be a little more serious, and one of us has to remind the other one not to take themselves so damn seriously,
Absolutely.
We're going, but Tim will be here all week. But so make yourself, as I said, and check out the Tip, Trick, and Witchy Hint for some ideas of how to go about looking for stuff to do. And also check out, we've moved on from a quick spell this week, just to mix it up a little bit, and giving you a jar spell for personal balance, so that you can remember that it's okay to be out of whack, as long as you're trying to figure out why and how.
I like it.
I do too. So with that being said, may you find mirth and reverence in all things, wherever you are.
Be safe, be kind, and be loved.
Practical magic for the everyday witch. These are simple spells we use that don't require a lot of ingredients for correspondences, or sometimes no ingredients at all. Because we like to be able to use magic to deal with the practical everyday stuff, this is what we have to share. However, the biggest reminder about spellcraft is that the best spells are the ones you create for yourself, because they are a part of your own magic. There are 3 important components to any spell. Number 1 is setting your intent. This means that you need to be able to state clearly and precisely what you want your spell to do and how you want it to be done. Number 2 is ingredients. Any physical items you need to cast your spell, such as candles or herbs, or to act as correspondences, which are representations of something physical that you don't have right in front of you or are trying to come up with or manifest. Finally, number 3 is some sort of way to raise energy. All spells are powered by energy, and there are a number of different ways to raise this type of energy, including chanting or various movements.
Here's a jar spell for personal balance. There are times when you can use a better sense of personal balance in your life, whether it is between the magical and the mundane, or working with what the Path tradition calls the sacred 3 of body, mind, and spirit. Not getting stuck or too focused on just one aspect is always beneficial. This jar spell is designed to give you those moments of awareness and also serve as a reminder that balance is an ideal and not something you can achieve all the time. Intent. At this moment, I am poised between the worlds of the magical and the mundane, aware of my body, mind, and spirit. The ingredients you'll need is a jar or a container with a lid, a white candle for sealing the jar, something to make flame, an intention scroll tied with white thread, cloves for protection, sea salt for grounding, lavender for calmness, hematite for the ability to handle change, tourmalinated quartz for breaking free when stuck, malachite for balancing your body, mind, and spirit, and in the spirit of modern correspondences, a picture of a balanced scales. Think Libra, or knowing what you need. The spell chant to raise energy is, although balance is the perfect ideal, right this moment I'm on an even keel. Now the steps to assemble your jar: you get all of your ingredients gathered together and write your intention on that piece of paper, roll it up and tie it with the piece of white thread. Blow 3 breaths into your jar, 1 for body, 1 for mind, and 1 for spirit. Place each item into your jar one at a time, starting with your intention scroll, repeating the chant each time you place an item to raise energy. And again, the spell chant is, although balance is the perfect ideal, right this moment I'm on an even keel. When all your items are placed in the jar, close it up tightly, light the candle, and seal it with the wax while saying, balance moves around and through me, as I will, so mote it be. Now place the jar somewhere you can see it often, as a reminder that while balance is the ideal to be worked for, smaller moments make it possible to achieve and enjoy it.
Before we go, we would like to present you with a tip or trick or witchy hint. Just something to make your day go better, because we live in a mixture of the magical and the mundane.
Today's tip, trick, or witchy hint is about figuring out where your practices can begin or restart or change to meet your needs today. In response to our discussion in the practices section about restarting when the world gets in the way that we live in, or somehow your practices have just fallen away, or you're in that term that I keep hearing called a slump when it comes to your practices. I'm not going to sit here and give you a list of things you should do or should try or work with to get your practice restarted, because that's a very personal thing. However, I'm going to give you some ideas where or why or how you might go looking for things. First of all, it is the times of Beltane for us on the path, and we consider that the times of foundations. In other words, we go back
and look at things we used to do or have modified and changed over the years so that they remain somewhat relevant or completely relevant, that we still do in our practices. We take, in other words, we go back and try to look at where we were, where we came from, how we got here, and what we used to do, and maybe we should try some of that stuff again. For instance, if you had a practice of meditation that you were working with, when was the last time you sat for 5 or 10 minutes and just meditated? That might be something that you want to go back to. Take a look at those foundational things that you used to do. Did you write in a journal every day about things that you noticed that were magical? Did you set your intent every morning with a specific purpose in mind, or just to be aware of what's more magical around you? That's a great way to start for creativity. Go looking for those magical things that remind you each day that you are a witch. Because regardless of whether you're practicing or not at the moment, because you have chosen to label yourself or call yourself a witch, you are a witch. And you don't have to do magic on a regular basis to be one. Witchcraft is all about your own beliefs and morals and ethics, and how those are reflected in what you do in your practices now. Take a look at those rituals that you have been doing over and over, or have become a standard part of your routines, and see, do they still work with what you do now? If they don't, then maybe it's time to go back and figure out what bits and pieces you want to bring forward and what needs to be discarded and changed. Make yourself some lists of things that you used to do on a daily basis that were part of your practices. Are these things you want to start doing again? And don't think you have to start all of them all at once. Look at your list, and I mean really seriously, and think about your list. What's one thing you could commit to doing every day for a week, or even every other day for a week, and try it out and see if it makes you feel a bit more magical. If that works, try adding something else to your list, or take your list and brainstorm a whole list of things you've always wanted to try on a daily basis and never gotten around to, and try one of those. Mix and match things. You don't have to do the same thing every day as part of your daily practices to practice witchcraft and remember that you are a witch. The idea is just to go out and find and do on whatever level you're capable of today. The weather has gotten all of us a little tired and depressed. I think between where we live, we've had severe thunderstorms every afternoon for the last 3 or 4 days, where everything is damp. And then, of course, the sun comes out and it's muggy and sticky all over again. And we just want to whimper and hide inside of the air conditioning, which really inhibits us from doing things that might be part of the natural world that help us connect to that spark inside of us that we call that internal spark of the divine. Take a few minutes and listen to your internal spark. See what it tells you to try. That's the best sort I know of for finding or renewing your magical practices of any variety. And again, as I said, don't be afraid to make lists. Be as wild and crazy as you want. Look at things that you used to do. Maybe you need to go back and try one again. The point is, though, just to commit to doing something at this point, even if it's just making the list. So with that being said, any of you that make such a list, we'd love for you to share it with us. You can reach any of us, either of us, I guess is the best way to put it. Me, Elizabeth at Young Crones Cafe, or Dave at Young Crones Cafe. We'd love to hear what you're thinking and thinking about doing. So with that being said, until next time, may you find mirth and reverence in all things.
Well, it looks like the coffee cups are empty for this week. We hope you join us again next Tuesday. But you can find us at our website, 2youngcrones.com. That's the number 2, Young Crones.
We'd love to have you join our growing online Discord community. Check out our new Patreon presence. Just look for Young Crones Cafe. Through Patreon, you'll be able to make it to our Discord. We are also Young Crones Cafe on Twitter and Facebook.
Until then, remember,
We are witches who work with energies to effect change.
We are believers in both immanent and transcendent divine.
We are celebrants of the passage of the solar and lunar cycles.
We are hedge walkers who pass back and forth between the worlds of the magical and the mundane.
We are seekers of knowledge.
And we are walkers of a spiritual tradition we call the path.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.